Guys, welcome back to another one of my live streams. Today's topic, as you can see from the title of this video, reasons why you shouldn't program hop. I'll just define program hopping by aimlessly swapping between programs either week to week or maybe month to month in the attempt to go to the next shiny thing and to get to the next best thing, okay? So I'm going to talk a little bit about, I'll give you some background to start with, and then I'll get into the 6 reasons, okay? And as always with my live streams, any questions, just pop them in the chat below. If you're watching this afterwards on YouTube, then just treat it like a podcast, go and do some cleaning, have it on in the house, do what you need to do, and just have my dulcet tones flowing through your apartment or your house while I give you some nuggets of information and wisdom based on my 10 or 11 years experience of doing this. I think it's 11 years now. So I'd just like to start by saying programming is not that important, okay? Personal trainers and online coaches love to make it out like programming is really important because they sell programming, okay? Online coaches will tell you it's really important to make sure you're doing, 5 reps instead of 4 reps on your bench press if you're doing this program, or the exercises need to be in a certain order. You need to be hitting 11 reps instead of 10 reps because that does this. It's really not that important, okay? For most people, most normal people who are not personal trainers, whether you're doing 8 reps or 10 reps, whether you're doing an incline press or a flat press, this kind of stuff does not really matter too much, okay? So don't fall into the trap of thinking that programming is the be all and end all of your training. What's far more important is you actually go into the gym in the first place, is that actually you do the technique you do the exercises with good technique, you're pushing yourself, you're doing things slowly. If you're ticking all those boxes and you just don't have a program and you've never followed one before, you're going to be good. You're going to build muscle. You're going to develop a great looking physique. You're going to get stronger, all the good stuff, okay? And because now we are in an age of social media with people people selling programs, people saying how their program is the best, how you need to follow a program all the time, how you need to switch it up every 3 to 4 weeks. That's not completely true, okay? Yes, I give my clients programs, but I don't place too much emphasis on them, okay? And I'll explain why in a little bit more. And just before I get onto the nitty gritty of this live stream, it's always tempting and fashionable and intriguing to kind of hop to the next flashy thing. You're doing your training, you're doing you're in the zone, you're doing your fitness program, you feel like you're making progress, you're enjoying it, it fits your lifestyle, let's say you're doing all the good things. You open up your phone and someone you follow is being like, they say in some sort of reel, oh, if you haven't put on 10 kilos in your bench press in 4 weeks, then you're doing it wrong. You need to do this program. You need to buy my program. You need to be doing this, this, and this. It can make you second guess what you are doing already, especially if the person who you are watching or listening to is in better shape than you, because the vast majority of the time, if you know that person via social media, they will be in far better shape than you, okay? In social media terms, I am a tiny, I'm not even a fish in a small pond. I am a grain of sand on the beach of the ocean compared to other people who have the same age as me in the fitness industry, okay? But yet I walk down the street and most of the time I'm always the most jacked person on the street, okay? Although when I'm wearing normal clothes, I don't look like I lift, but if I've got a pump on and I'm walking along after I've been to the gym, if I've hit either a push or a pull session, I am looking pumped and juicy. Okay, so the first reason why you don't want to program hop is you have to invest valuable time learning new exercises, okay? And the opportunity cost of that time that you spend learning a new exercise is doing an exercise you already know and you've already mastered, normally with a good amount of weight. I'll give you an example. If you can normally, let's say, bench press, let's say 60 kilos for 10 reps, okay? 3 sets of 10 at 60 kilos. This is the flat barbell bench press, okay? So let's say you do that. But let's say you want to change things up. You want to start doing a flat dumbbell press instead. Initially, or for the first few times of doing the new exercise, maybe the first few sessions, maybe even the first few weeks, you're not going to be using the equivalent of 60 kilos on that flat bench press. on the dumbbell press. You need to be choosing a lighter weight initially so you can actually learn how to do the movement properly. Okay, so it's really important that that you don't waste valuable time learning a different exercise. Okay, that being said, it's not to say you can never change the exercises you do. Of course, every once in a while you do need to rotate through your exercises, but if you just continuously program hop, always doing different exercises month to month to month, you are always going to be in the learning phase of doing those new exercises, and you're never going to be able to train properly. Okay, it's like, I don't know, a good analogy would be like you're never going to get a really good night's sleep always sleeping in a different bed every single week, because you probably need time to adjust to the bed, the different springs, how spongy it is, how firm it is, whether it has a mattress topper or not, where in the room is like the light level in the room, the temperature of the room. If you're always just changing the room you sleep in, let's say you're always moving to a different hotel or you move Airbnbs every single week, you're never going to be able to like lock in your sleep to get a good night's sleep. Okay, so that's a good analogy to think about. You don't want to waste too much time invested into learning new movements all the time, which is a good reason why not to program up. Okay, and the second point, you won't be able to go heavy on these new exercises for a while. Okay, if it takes you, several months, maybe even years to master a lift, to master the technique, to feel comfortable doing it, to feel confident doing it, that you can push heavy weight, that you've done it enough times. Um, if you've done that for many months and years, then when you go to do a new exercise, you just basically restart the timer again, and it might take you another few months or maybe even years to really lock in on that exercise to be able to use the right amount of weight. There are exercises that me personally, I just do not do in the gym that often. And if I was to pick them up, let's say today, later on when I do my training session, I'm not going to be able to go that heavy. And in that training session, if we're looking at the success of a training session in terms of how much volume that we accumulate in that training session, if you're always training at kind of suboptimal weights, you're never going to be able to get enough volume in your training session to either stimulate or even just maintain your muscle. We're all getting older. We are all fighting the catabolic kind of battle in terms of losing muscle. So if you're always chopping and changing your exercises, you're always doing something different, you're always changing your movements, the rate of muscle loss you're going to experience as you continue to do that is just going to be a graph heading south at a steeper gradient than it would do otherwise. Okay, and so change your exercises a little bit, but just don't fall into the trap of just like hopping between. Oh, okay, so I saw this video of someone doing a single leg Bulgarian split squat because they say it's the best movement for legs. Okay, cool, I'm going to do that in my next session. The next day, oh, great, this person says that actually this exercise is really good. It's better than a Bulgarian split squat. It's doing a Bulgarian split squat instead of with a dumbbell, also with a barbell. Oh, great. I'm going to do that next time I go to train. Oh, another person said I need to do this special sumo stance instead. It's a game that you don't want to be a part of. You just want to be able to look at people on social media and go like, oh, they've got a nice body, like they look nice, or they're inspirational, but then don't take what they say at face value. There are people out there who are genuinely good at what they're saying, like they have a good physique and they also talk sense, but the sense they talk will not be, oh yeah, just keep do this exercise, then do this exercise, then do this exercise. It's just to get views and likes. Okay, so don't fall into that trap. Okay, question. For form, to what extent can you rely on muscle memory? Do you always have to think of your cues? No. If you do something often and long enough, you will have accumulated, the 10,000 out. We can apply the whole kind of 10,000 hours rule to master something. And let's say it's 10,000 reps or 5,000 reps. So once you've done, 10,000 reps in your lifetime on a flat barbell bench press, then more or less you're going to be locked in on that exercise and you won't have to think about cues too much, assuming you carry on with it. Obviously, if you accumulate those 10,000 hours of doing the flat barbell bench press, and let's say you just stop training for like 5 years, or let's say you just do every other exercise apart from the flat bench press, you will lose some of the the mastered hours accumulated that you spent doing the barbell bench press. So you might need to do another 500 or 1,000 repetitions of that. Sorry, repetitions, in order to master it again. But definitely, when I'm training, me personally, I'm thinking about some cues, yes, but by and large, a lot of it is muscle memory. I know that when I'm doing these exercises, I've done it often enough that that's how the technique looks. And it's also just practice as well. If you always practice doing things with good technique, then you never actually experience doing the same exercise with bad technique. And so you won't really know what bad technique is. I couldn't really do a bench press with bad technique because I haven't done a bad technique bench press in like 10 years. I've only done it with good technique. And so my brain and my body is just hardwired to always do that flat bench press with good technique. Okay. So I hope that answers your question, Lizzie. And thank you very much for the question. Cool. Right. So the first one, you don't want to spend time learning new exercises, too much time learning new exercises. The second one, you won't be able to go as heavy for a while. Then the third one is you may potentially be doing less effective movements when you program hop, because remember, there's no guarantee that the new exercise that you'll be doing is better than the one you were doing. Okay. A flat bench press is really good exercise for, let's say, growing your chest, okay? And let's say there's another exercise, let's say a flat dumbbell press, the same angle on a flat with dumbbells, but on a Bosu ball, okay? So not on a bench, but on a round Bosu, let's say on a round Swiss ball, okay? Which is kind of dangerous if you go heavy. I've seen a video of the ball actually popping when they do it. But let's say for the sake of argument, the ball's not going to pop and you're just going to do the exercise on a normal Swiss ball where the shoulder blades are. That is a terrible exercise for muscle growth because you're super unstable. You have nothing rigid to push against. And so if you swapped out your really good barbell bench press for a flat Swiss ball press, and you, let's say, stuck with that because it's the worst exercise, because you won't be able to go so heavy, you'll probably lose muscle. And you won't be able to accumulate the same amount of volume as you were doing on the flat barbell press. So there's no guarantee that these new exercises you try are as good as the bread and butter ones. That being said, there is a chance. There is a small chance that the funky single leg Bosu ball RDL with a pink dumbbell exercise that a really hot, good looking woman who has 5 million followers on Instagram shows on one of her workouts, there is a tiny chance that that is better than the like a bread and butter barbell Romanian deadlift. But the chance is like so fucking small. And that woman built her physique doing the bread and butter exercises, doing heavy hip thrusts, doing heavy lunges, doing leg press, doing leg curl, doing leg extension. They don't do it doing these fancy exercises. Okay. I'm in good shape. If I just pick up the chair on my terrace and start doing some standing overhead presses with a chair, and I could post that video, yeah, the video is going to show me without my top on, looking jacked, looking pumped up. You can see all the veins of muscularity, and I've got the chair, and I'm just pushing it over my head. But like the chair overhead press didn't develop my physique. I've started it 5 minutes ago and I've taken a video of it. What developed my physique was 10 years of hard training, bread and butter exercises, consuming enough protein, doing all the stuff we know to do. It's got nothing to do with that chair. But the video would look, and let's say I said in the caption, oh, it's a great chair, like a great alternative to a regular shoulder press with dumbbells. Just grab the chair, one leg in each hand and press it overhead. Some people would fall for that. Some people would look at the exercise and go, wow, Harry's looking like completely jacked. And he's doing this special chair over the head press. I'm going to try that. I was doing a normal incline dumbbell press for my front delts and everything, but Harry said this exercise is really good. He's in good shape. He's a personal trainer. He has 8,000 followers on Instagram. He has a position of authority. I'm going to listen to him. This is a scenario that plays out all the time, by the way. So don't fall into that trap. Another question. Does the order in which you do your exercises on your program matter? Yes and no. Let's say, take a typical training session of, let's say, 6 exercises, okay? So most programs are going to be between 5 and 7 exercises. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, 6 exercises. I would say the first 3 exercises can be done in any order, okay? And then the last 3 exercises can also be done in any order, okay? I would not do the final few exercises at the start. So for example, I wouldn't start a push workout with like an ab exercise to start with, then a tricep isolation exercise, then like a lateral raise, like a shoulder isolation exercise, and then do like let's say an incline dumbbell press, a flat bench press, and then a pec deck. For example, that example would not be that good. So just think of your program as like two slots or blocks of exercises. The first block, you can do them in any order, okay? You can either do 1, 2, 3 or 3, 2, 1. Doesn't really matter too much, as long as you're doing those first 3 exercises first. And then the second lot of exercises, the one you do near the end, like the isolation exercises, the fixed movements, the machines, blah, 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 do them at the end, but like in any order, okay? Don't start your workout with an ab exercise, or don't start your leg workout with calf raises. It's not the end of the world, okay? If you have to, let's say the gym is really busy, you're training at a pure gym at 8 p.m. on a Wednesday night, it's completely rammed. Yeah, you can just do the exercises in any order, because that's a one-off, isn't it? You're not always going to be training at 8 p.m. on a Wednesday when the gym is always packed, okay? If it's a one-off, it's okay. But for the most part, just split your exercise into 2 blocks. Okay, that's a good way to think about it. Another question. Unfortunately, people rarely question the truth of what they see on social media. It's particularly right when it comes to health content. Yeah, I mean, I remember a few years ago, you would get doctors going on talk shows on TV, either like GB News or ITV News or BBC. And because they're a doctor and they're wearing a lab coat, basically it just gave them a free-for-all to just say anything. Like, you know, they would say things like, I can't actually remember off the top of my head, but they were just saying, you know, like they would say things like, oh yeah, don't eat carbs because they cause cancer. Or, you know, the best diet for everyone to follow is the paleo diet because of X research. And it's a really dangerous, they are coming from a position of authority, and potentially they are just abusing their authority. I'll give you another example. The podcast, the Stephen Bartlett podcast, he basically gets lots of experts to come on his podcast and YouTube channel to say different things of information. And every single person says something different and conflicting. Like he'll get an expert on who's talking, let's say a plant-based vegan expert, who's an expert in their field. They're a doctor, they have qualifications, they're far more intelligent than I am, they have a PhD, blah, blah, blah. And they will just say, you know, don't eat meat, eating meat will kill you, only eat vegetables, blah, 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 blah. And then a week later, Stephen Bartlett will get someone else on his podcast who's like a fan of the carnivore diet. So this guy, same credentials as the vegan guy, PhD, doctor, blah, 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 blah. But this guy hates vegetables and fruit. He only preaches about just eating only meat. Okay, so it's like only eat meat and eggs, and vegetables bad for you and everything. So like, as the consumer, as the watcher of that podcast, like, and you just watch these 2 episodes back to back, like, what do you do with this information? Both people are equally qualified. Both are doctors. Both studied at Harvard. Both have PhDs. Both sound like they're talking sense. Both have good arguments for each of their positions. But one is telling you that, you know, if you eat meat, you're going to die of cancer. And the other person is saying, if you eat vegetables, you'll probably die of cancer. So like, what do you actually do with that information? And so exactly, it's difficult, isn't it? So you have to take a lot of they say with a pinch of salt. You have to basically cherry pick what they say, and then ultimately just have a flexible dieting approach when it comes to nutrition. It's impossible to stick to a carnivore diet 365 days of the year without going crazy, you know, because if you can't eat any fruits or vegetables, then like what are you going to do? You're missing out on all those vitamins and minerals from that. And likewise, with the whole vegan thing, like, you know, can you get all of your nutrients only from vegetables? Probably not. I'm not an expert on that. I've never tried it, but There probably maybe some people watching this who are vegan who are going to say in the comments, oh no, I can do it and everything. But I've seen loads of articles about people having health problems with only eating plant-based diet and not having any meat whatsoever. So it's an interesting one. Yeah, you have to take everything online with a pinch of salt, okay, including what I tell you. Okay, so the fourth reason you don't want to program hop is that changing your program too often can make it difficult to stick to your training schedule when you're not motivated. Doing a new program is great when you're motivated, okay? So when you can spend time and energy and attention on your gym workouts, on your program, about thinking about the gym, it's fine, okay? So when you're on holiday, when you're quiet at work, when you don't have a newborn baby, when you're not stressed, it's completely cool to pay more attention to your gym workouts. You know, you can go on the app, you can look at the exercises, you can change that, you can follow a new program. It's great. But what do you do when you're in the process of programming hopping? Let's say every 2 weeks or every week you're changing a program, you're doing different exercises. What happens when you just cannot be bothered to train? Everyone goes through these patches. Maybe it lasts a week, maybe it lasts a month, maybe it lasts 3 months where you just can't be bothered to train. You go to the gym, you do your exercises, but you're not really feeling it. Doing that is much more difficult if you're having to do all these new exercises. No? It's far easier just to go to the gym when you're feeling unmotivated. You just go through the motions, you just tick the boxes, and then you get out. That's a good training session. You've gone to the gym when you're not motivated, you've ticked some boxes. Yeah, you haven't broken any records, but you've ticked the volume box, you've ticked the going to the gym box, and you've probably had on paper a decent workout. Would you be able to do that same workout if you were just programming hopping all the time? And instead of doing 7 exercises that you kind of know and you're locked in with, you had to set up and learn 7 different exercises. Fuck that. You wouldn't go. You really wouldn't go. Like, there are some times, you know, like, it's the same with diet. If every meal you had to make was like a new meal, I'm going to try this different recipe. I'm going to watch this person's Instagram reel. They're going to cook this special high protein pasta, or I'm going to do this special soup. Oh, okay, I need to go and buy these ingredients. Instead of going to the supermarket and just autopiloting my normal grocery order where I go into that aisle, I pick that up, I go there, I pay for it, I come home, I then cook the food and then wash up, autopilot mode. Instead of doing that, you're having to go and buy different ingredients. You have to cook them different. You have to use 3 different saucepans instead of 1 saucepan. You're not going to cook. You're just going to order Deliveroo and just go fuck it. You know, sometimes you just need to make things easy for yourself. You're not always motivated. I would say in a typical week, I am motivated for like half my training sessions. 3 of 6 I'm motivated for. The other 3, I just really can't be bothered. I'd rather do something else. I'd rather edit a YouTube video. I'd rather do some work. I'd rather take B for a walk. I'd rather call some friends. But I go to the gym anyway. But if I knew I had to learn 7 new exercises on that same day when I'm not feeling motivated, like fuck, I'm going to go. I just wouldn't even bother. Yeah, autopilot is good for motivation because you're not always motivated. You need to be practical. Imagine having to cook a different meal every time you're gonna cook it at home, because you need to like make sure you're maximizing your micronutrient content, and you can't always have like this type of minced beef because you'll get used to it, and you need to have like every single type of vegetable in your diet, otherwise you're going to be micronutrient deficient. I always cook the same meal every time I go to the gym. Every time I'm cooking, I always have the same meal. Okay, so it's autopilot is a very important way to just get over that hump of being demotivated. Okay, so don't program hop, basically. Don't program hop. Yeah, exactly. 1 second, guys. 1 second. Sorry, guys, we're back. The connection just dropped for a second there. Sorry about that. We're back. So yeah, autopilot is very good for that. Okay, you don't want to have to change things up too much because you're just trying to do something new every time. Okay, sometimes just doing the stuff that you're used to is good. Okay, especially when motivation's low and you can't be bothered to do it. Okay, the 5th one. Okay, goes with the exercises. There's no guarantee that you build more muscle when you program hop. Okay, you're just not, because the volume you're going to be doing is going to be overall lower. on a week where you're doing all different exercises compared to a week where you're doing exercises that you know, you're not going to be able to get enough volume in that week to progressively overload to be able to build muscle. Okay, so by and large, sticking to exercise that you kind of know and that you have mastered already is better for muscle better for muscle growth than program hopping. Okay. Yeah, it's just like when you're if you're learning a new exercise, you're using less weight, you're having to maybe do higher reps to kind of like learn the movement. It's just not a recipe for that muscle stimulating training response that we're going for. Okay, so that's the fifth point. Then the last one, it kind of goes in hand with what I said about exercises. Again, there's no guarantee that your new program is going to be better than your old one. Again, there's a small chance of maybe, but by and large, the basics work. Okay, the shiny, the fancy new exercises, the ones that you see online, the exercises that influencers post just to be different, so they can stand out from the crowd and they can get views and clicks and likes and comments and traction. That's not necessarily better than what you were doing already. Okay, if already you are doing the bread and butter exercises, the bench presses, the split squats, the leg curls, the leg extensions, the inclined dumbbell presses, the pull downs, the rows. If your program consists mainly of these exercises, you don't need to be doing crazy ab workouts with 10 different exercises where you only do a session on abs and then next week you change that up completely and the following week you change that up completely. There's no need to do that. That is not going to yield you any better results than what you're doing already, even if the person who is advertising those new exercises is in really good shape. And I'll take you back to the point about the chair. I built my physique and my muscle doing bread and butter, boring exercises in the gym. But so now that I have that physique, now I have already obtained that, I could pick up any item in my apartment, pretend it's an exercise, and then just say online, look at this single arm bottle shoulder press. Okay, look, my arm is looking jacked whilst I'm doing it. It's really great for your triceps. And yeah, it's really easy to do that. Okay, but don't fall into that trap of thinking that those exercises that you see online are what's built that influencer's physique. For the most part, the physique was built doing bread and butter exercises, doing normal, boring, old school bodybuilding type stuff. Okay, I'm not saying don't change your program at all, but I would say every 3 or 4 months, change it. Have a repertoire of exercises for each muscle group that you can kind of change and rotate through. Let's say 2 or 3 exercises per muscle group, and just rotate through them. And don't fall into the trap of thinking that you need to change the exercises all the time, because the reality is program hopping is going to be bad for your overall muscle gain journey and your general training enjoyment, because unless you can lock in on exercises, unless you can master them, you're never going to be able to do them effectively enough to be able to enjoy them. Okay, if you're always changing what instrument you want to learn, 1 week is piano, 1 week is violin, 1 week is oboe, the next one you're playing the harp, the following week you're playing the drums. Yeah, you've played 5 different instruments over a 5-week period. Great, good for you. If you get a medal for that, whoop-de-doo. But if your goal is to learn a musical instrument and be good at it so that you can play in a concert or that you can enjoy playing it, you're better off just doing 5 weeks of the violin, and then you get way better at doing that. Because a week on each thing, you're just going to be shit at 5 instruments rather than just kind of like averagely good at one. Does that make sense? Cool. The learning a musical instrument analogy is always good for training and dieting and fat loss and muscle building and everything. So yeah, guys, thank you very much for joining the live. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I will see you in the next one. If you haven't done so already, like, subscribe, join my email list. I send free emails out every single day. And if you want to work with me as well, check the link in the bio and I can send you some more details. Okay, so have a great rest of the day. I'll see you next time for the live stream, and then we'll see you later then. Ciao, ciao.